Welcome back, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, to another reading of Quirk, Class Thaumiel. Today I'll be reading Chapter 11, Incident Report 1300-B12. Here's the summary. A Foundation report on an SCP disappearance, and on methods for containing a familiar SCP. Incident Report 1300-B12. Level 5 security clearance is required for examining this document. SCP involved: SCP-1300, SCP-8502. Personnel involved: Agents redacted, and redacted. 5 D-Class agents: Yagi Toshinori. Date: information redacted through information redacted. Location: redacted, North Street, redacted, Natural History Museum, redacted, Junior High School. Description: at redacted AM, information redacted, SCP-1300 disappeared from containment. This was a second instance of this item's disappearance in Foundation record. The cause of disappearance in both instances is assumed to be SCP-8502 under a high degree of evidence. Unlike previous cases of SCP-8502's interference, SCP-1300 was not returned to Foundation containment. A team of 5 D-Class agents discovered SCP-1300 under a bridge, with SCP-8502 nowhere in sight. Once recovered and examined in Foundation laboratories, the DNA of one Yagi Toshinori, known to be the identity of the original figure All Might, was found on the recorded anomaly. Samples included blood, hair, sweat, and urine. Addendum 1300-B12-1. Following SCP-1300's discovery was the discovery of the remains of Foundation Agent Redacted nearby. Agent Redacted appeared to have been killed with extreme blunt force trauma. This marks the second failed attempt to secure SCP-8502. Addendum 1300-B12-2. List of attempts to secure SCP-8502. 1. Agent Redacted failed to secure SCP-8502 on information redacted at redacted Natural History Museum. The agent in question was disfigured and killed by SCP-783. The agent had an ability derived from SCP-3396 which allowed him to disperse gas with a paralyzing agent. The lack of physical force made the ability viable in containing SCP-8502, but SCP-8502 retained the ability to summon SCP-783 to his aid, even while asleep. 2. Agent Redacted failed to secure SCP-8502 on information redacted at SCP-8502's primary residence. The agent was killed immediately by SCP-783. The agent's SCP-3396 ability allowed her to exercise physical control over subjects, provided physical contact. However, SCP-783 was guarding SCP-8502's bedside even before the agent arrived. Thermal imaging indicates that SCP-8502 did not wake during the incident. 3. Agent Redacted failed to secure SCP-8502 on information redacted at redacted North Street. Agent was killed by blunt force trauma. Trauma was inflicted by SCP-018, which is still at large. The agent has an ability derived from SCP-3396, which allowed him to possess the body and abilities of any host he was fully contained in. This ability was deemed a possible solution for containment, however, it left Agent Redacted weak to physical attacks. And that's the end of Chapter 11. It's really short and just made to be kind of an SCP canon thing. I apologize that I kind of kept messing up the names of the SCPs and whether or not I said the word dash. I hope that doesn't throw you off too much. But anyways, the SCPs in this chapter, if you want to understand it a little bit better, 1300 or 1300, that is Liquid Surgeon. SCP-018 is the Super Ball. SCP-8502 is Izuku Midoriya. SCP-783 was the Crooked Man. SCP-3396 is the SCP explanation for the existence of quirks. That's all for this chapter. I'll move straight on to Chapter 12. This one should be a little more interesting. Chapter 12. Zoom. Making awkward video calls since 2011. Here's the summary. Izuku examines his heroic aspirations, and Yagi makes a call. Izuku never wanted to hurt Katsuki. Still, he did. No amount of wishful thinking could change what had happened. The sight of his dearest friend's face, as it turned cold and blue, scared him much more than he thought it would. Izuku had seen many people die, but none scared him like the thought of losing Katsuki. Maybe he's right, Izuku thought. I'll never be a hero, I'm just a monster. Still, the boy wished to be a hero. On some level, it felt like the desire was wrapped up in his very DNA, his soul even. Other times, Izuku wondered if it was all to push down the guilty feeling he got when he saw what destruction he had wrought on those he loved merely by existing. No, Izuku declared to himself, then out loud. No! The other passengers on the subway sent the boy startled glances. His face flushed with embarrassment. I'm not going to let a few parts of my quirk control my life. I healed Yagi-san, didn't I? My quirk can be used to help people. Izuku lifted his head, no longer ashamed to exist. As he watched the busy streets of Japan pass him by, he found in himself a new resolve to become a hero, and to prove to the world he was more than a monster. Whether for better or for worse remained to be seen. Can you hear me okay? A voice asked, coming through the speakers of Shoto Aizawa's laptop. He sat at his desk at home, already mentally calculating how many seconds of sleep he'd wasted on this idiotic conversation. Yes, you oaf, Aizawa snapped back. I can hear you just fine. Now, are you ready to tell us why you've skipped 2 days of teaching, leaving me to take over all your classes? I was getting to that, you see, Yagi said nervously. Jeez, Aizawa hadn't seen his coworker this nervous since he had told the teaching staff that wild story about his secret quirk and some boogeyman supervillain. Now, Sasaki Mirai admonished. Let's give him a chance to speak. It seems to me that something has Yagi spooked. The great and powerful All Might, shivering in his boots. I never thought I'd see the day, David Shield joked. David's face was layered on a photo of a potato and moving erratically across his box on Aizawa's screen. The potato was because the three were calling in using a pre-Quirk era software called Zoom. Yagi thought it would be an efficient method for the meeting. Aizawa disagreed. Case in point, a floating potato that invaded Aizawa's vision against his will. Despite being hailed as a tech genius, David somehow couldn't figure out how to remove the filter. Aizawa truly was surrounded by idiots. Yes, Yagi said, clearing his throat. I've called this meeting to discuss the appearance of another possible Class 5 quirk. Or worse. Instantly, the group's attention was all on Yagi. Class 5 quirks weren't exactly something to scoff about. Only 8 were known to exist worldwide. One for All, and its inverse, All for One, were 2. Star and Stripes' new order was a 3rd. In other words, quirks weren't called Class 5 unless they had serious society or reality-altering capabilities. You're pulling our legs, right? David asked, hesitantly. What do you mean by worse? What could possibly be worse than a new Class 5 quirk? Well, we could be dealing with a new All for One, or he could be alive and dealing his services to children, Yagi said. The call seemed to have been muted from how quiet David and Sasaki were. And what, may I ask, makes you think the return of Japan's greatest supervillain could be a possibility, exactly? Aizawa asked, breaking the silence. Yagi was silent for a few moments before he answered. There was a kid. No, I hesitate to call him that after what he did, but yes, a child. I found him under a bridge and saved him from what he said was his quirk. It was some kind of ball of kinetic energy. When I punched it, it actually hurt me. I managed to send it flying, but only by using One for All at my maximum output. That sounds like a strong quirk, Night Eye exclaimed. I see why you think so, but that's not exactly Class 5 worthy, is it? I'm not finished, Sasaki, Yagi said darkly. He did something else, too. What did he do? David asked. Wait, did he hurt you? Is that why I couldn't reach you for the past few days? Because you were in the hospital? In surgery? Yagi flinched back visibly at the word. No, I was at home. I was too afraid to leave my house, if I'm being honest. Yagi, you idiot. What in the world happened to you? Spit it out already, Aizawa growled. Was that the proper victim treatment method he had been trained on as a hero? No, but this call was already eating into the precious few minutes a day the man could sleep, and he wasn't going to let Yagi ruin that for him. It was a chair. Yagi shivered visibly and looked behind his shoulder as if expecting to see a piece of furniture sneaking up on him. It was a horrible chair, full of needles and saws and tubes. It took out my organs and filled me with acid, the man declared with a dark finality. Your organs? Yagi, I thought we discussed this. I simply don't feel comfortable with you losing any more organs. What did this chair steal exactly? Show me the wounds, Sasuke yelled, standing up from his seat and slamming his desk, the sound rumbling through the speakers on the others' devices. Wordlessly, Yagi stood up and lifted his shirt, revealing a thin pink incision line running from his lower chest to his waist. David was the first to realize what was wrong with the picture. Dude, what happened to your scar? He exclaimed. That gigantic white Zetsu-looking thing. Gone, was his only reply. This child. He healed you then? Fixed your organ damage? Sasuke wondered. If he was behind this surgery chair and the ball of energy, that would make his quirk an anomaly of sorts. I can see why you'd assume All For One had something to do with it. No, you don't understand. That chair was no gift. It was straight out of a nightmare, Yagi wailed. It hurt, Sasuke. It really hurt. Yes, Sasuke said as he waved off his mentor's tears. Many medical quirks are quite painful. It's only because of your ridiculous constitution that you never had to deal with them, frankly. Yagi's mouth opened and closed, too astonished to form a sentence. He simply couldn't fathom how anyone could hear about the torture he went through and respond so callously. His oldest friend, no less. If that's all, can I go now? Aizawa asked. Not quite yet. Yagi, you need to give me the kid's name. I can't run a police scan of his quirk without that, Sasuke asked. He didn't give me a name, Yagi replied. He was a middle schooler, though. He had curly green hair and eyes and, well, he looked like a ball of sunshine incarnate. Very polite kid all the way up until he locked me in that chair. Yagi trailed off, staring blankly to the empty wall beside him. It can't be, Sasuke thought. What's on your mind, Sasuke? David asked. It's just that, well, I know this sounds ridiculous, but that sounds exactly like the child I saw in All Wrong's past, Sasuke supposed. Aizawa was lost, and ready for a nap. Whatever an All Wrong was, surely it could wait until tomorrow. Could that kid have been the one to create All Wrong? We still never figured that out, even after all these years, David said. If the kid Yagi met is in middle school, the years do match up, as do the children's quirks, summoning powerful objects. Yagi zoned back into the conversation, face paling immediately. You're saying that kid was also behind my replacement? I'm saying it's a possibility, that's all, Sasuke answered. I'll run a search for a powerful object summoning quirks and see what turns up. For now, all of us should be watching for a child matching his description so we can ask him some questions. Are we done here then? Aizawa drawled. Well, not exactly. There are procedures we need to discuss for if we find the child in question. Good, Aizawa said as he closed his laptop. What were the odds that Aizawa would randomly find that single kid out of the millions in Japan? Aizawa never made it to bed, falling unconscious the moment his head hit his desk. The SCPs in this chapter were SCP-1300, Liquid Surgeon, SCP-018, Super Ball, and SCP-137, All Wrong. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I don't know. It's a kind of fun one, and I like that this entire conversation happens with David Shield just accidentally having messed with the zoom settings and his face being on a potato. Like, just that is a known fact that's in the background. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for listening this time. And the next chapters should be up soon. Patch out.